The Oblivion Remake had a leak, and this is supposed to be a game changer. Or maybe I just made that up to sound cooler.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and I know, I can hear the comment section. Another Oblivion Remake video, bro. Again? How much you milking this thing, bro? I can hear it, but look, man, if you're like me, the main thing I
would say that with pride. Huh, strange.
see in my comment section is someone somewhere always bringing up the Oblivion Remake. I asked for feedback for a Switch 2 impressions video in a community post, and one of the top comments was, where's the Oblivion Remake? I don't know, but I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to scrape all the information together and continue to feed y'all who are just like me and super hungry for this game. Now, we do have new information to get into today, trying to narrow down the
Okay, boys, we really have to settle the debate here, okay? Do you think the Oblivion Remake is gonna be a large success? Like, what? I don't even honestly know what constitutes as a large success for Oblivion Remake. I have no idea. You know, I can easily say that, yeah, South of Midnight was gonna get like 1K players or something like that. Maybe 10K if we're super pumped. It got 1K, by the way, 1.3K. And 10K obviously was never happening, but that's why I'm calling it super pumped. But the Oblivion Remake? I don't know. What's the expectancy for this, mate? 5K players? 500 players? 50,000 players? 500,000 players? I have absolutely no idea what to expect from a remake of a game this old. Because I know what Oblivion is. I didn't play Oblivion, though. I played I almost said Neverwinter. Morrowind. I played Morrowind as a kid, but I don't know if I want a Morrowind remake. I don't know if I want an Oblivion remake. I don't trust Bethesda touching up the things and modernizing them for, you know, modern audiences. I don't even trust them to make the graphics better, honestly. I don't know what to expect. Like, what is your vote? What is this gonna have? 5,000 players, 50,000 players, 500,000 players, or 500 players? I don't think we even have data points for old remakes like this. It's kind of insane. Probably the best comparison is Diablo 2 Resurrected or Warcraft 3 Reforged, but I mean, Warcraft 3 Reforged got absolutely blasted because of how shit it was. Diablo 2 Resurrected was also kind of poorly received by a lot of people because of disconnects, which wasn't really a problem for me. I don't know how that happened, but, you know, still. We don't know the numbers for that, though. So I'm not sure where we're sitting on this. I have no idea.
Release window of Oblivion Remake, but it's also going to lead us into what's going on recently with Elder Scrolls Online and how people are...
Oh, we talked about this yesterday. Technically the best update Elder Scrolls Online has ever had, but also technically the worst one, because even though on paper it's like, oh, there's now 3 billion different builds you can do, everyone's going to do the same fucking one meta build, and it's going to arguably take away from variety. And arguably it's the first good update that Elder Scrolls Online has had.
We're starting to galaxy brain this. If I were to draw a connection really to how things feel right now with this Oblivion Remake, although I again still don't get, as I'll rant about later in this video, the shadow drop part of this whole Oblivion Remake, this does remind me a lot of Fallout.
Matty watched my video. I said the shadow drop part doesn't make sense, because if it's literally a graphical touch-up, it's not expensive. But that doesn't mean that Bethesda is not going to tweet about it and just create hype around it for free.
For every
a shadow drop for anything Microsoft doesn't make sense, by the way.
Crumb on the table when it comes to Oblivion Remake is like a full meal for people. Like, oh, there's something, there's a little piece there. So we're going to talk about those little pieces here today, and then again dive into what's going on with ZeniMax Online Studios, because a lot of people think they're sunsetting Elder Scrolls Online, but it's doing anything but that, and I'll start to break down a lot of Bethesda's kind of structure of their online games versus their single player games. So we'll really get into the thick of it there. But ladies and gentlemen, if you've been around here for a while, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me on this journey to whatever this Oblivion Remake is going to end up being. And if you're new here and you're interested in what's going on with Oblivion Remake, I don't know, feel like I got a bunch more videos in me, so consider subscribing. Breadcrumb time. All right, here we go. So let's start off with Nate the Hate, who is one of the original sources of the Oblivion Remake leak. I mean, this goes back so far, between the Reddit post from Virtuos all the way to the FTC leak. Again, as I said in our last video, when people were really doubting the legitimacy of this game, I just say that there's just way too much smoke, way too much evidence. It's way too out there for it to have not been shut down by someone.
Did anyone doubt the legitimacy of Oblivion getting a remake? I mean, it's literally on the map. It's, you know, in that actual... The leak was real, okay? That was an accident. They just told you everything they're planning to do. Plus, everyone kind of knew that this is happening because we live in the age of, oh my god, something 15 or 20 years ago was received good by the public? Remake that bad boy, because God knows we can't make anything good now, so might as well try to cash in on the remakes.
One somewhere. So it's obviously real, and Nate the Hate has doubled down on that. He says, I have no concerns about the Oblivion Remake being legit or it coming in April. So what has happened now is I am struggling as a gamer. I went ahead and finished up my Lies of P playthrough to the chapter 9. So now that is good to go, where it's ready for the DLC. And I'm just doing a little procrastinating gaming. I'm basing my whole schedule around, like, this can drop at any time, and it damn well better be good. But I have been working around where I'm like, do I commit to, like, Death Stranding now? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem of having many games. What do you commit, honestly, to?
If I want to commit to Death Stranding now, because I'll definitely drop it when Oblivion Remake comes out. It's been tough out here, y'all. It's been tough out here. But it seems like April is still the month, so we don't have to worry too much about that. The question is, when in April? Right now, we are still in the front half of April, and Nate the Hate is locking in the second half. The original rumor was that it was going to be the third week of April. That came from Detective Seeds. However, I do have to say that Detective Seeds has since deleted his Twitter account, and that's usually, to me, not a vote.
Wait, wasn't the Detective Seeds the thing that had literally never posted anything and it's just randomly, ah, I'm an insider, I know shit. Come on.
Confidence that a leaker has been spot on. I mean, I get it, the public spotlight sucks and all, but that's usually not a pretty big vote of confidence as to, you know, the legitimacy of said leak. So right now, just leaning into what Nate the Hate had to say, second half of April. All right, so start making your gaming plans around that. Sometime in the last 2 weeks of April, we'll be playing the Oblivion Remake. But then it gets really interesting. Jeff Grubb has now stepped into the leaker ring when it comes to the Oblivion Remake. And according to this headline from GameSpot, Oblivion Remake will shadow drop at any moment this month. The long-rumored remake of Bethesda's popular 2006 RPG, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, continues to come into focus. Reporter Jeff Grubb of GameSpot.
Is this just a rehash of the last video we watched about this? It feels like it, doesn't it, a little bit?
Sister site Giant Bomb offered an update on the project today during game-breaking news, saying he expects the game to release soon. In fact, Grubb said he expects Bethesda to shadow drop the game, quote, at any moment this month, end quote. That means Bethesda would announce and release the game.
Do you think Jeff Grubb just again stole something from someone else? I would say yes.
At or around the same time, it appears. So this is what's driving me a little bit insane with it all, okay? Because when it comes to shadow drops, I feel like they're usually aligned with a significant event. You know, when we got the Hi-Fi Rush shadow drop, if we're looking at a Bethesda shadow drop, we got Hi-Fi Rush during the first ever developer direct. That really was a surge of excitement, even if Tango unfortunately ended up shutting down. We've since got some numbers on the sales for Hi-Fi Rush thanks to Alinea Analytics, and it seems like maybe if you combine in Xbox sales, this game crossed over 1 million sales. So for like the hardcore gamer, Hi-Fi Rush was this like, whoa, oh my god, but for like the masses, it didn't seem to reach out there. So it's just, number one, weird. But
wait, that's actually a different take that he previously had. Oh, and it's still the wrong take! How many times can we talk about Hi-Fi Rush being shit and not doing what... Listen, this is what you need to know about Hi-Fi Rush. Xbox created Hi-Fi Rush with the express intent into seeing how far they can go into the Asian market, because A long time ago, I predicted the collapse of Xbox because that Asian market is non-existent, and that will be a significant downfall to them because no one wants to play the losing side, even though if it actually doesn't affect because it doesn't actually affect most people because the huge difference in millions is only in Asia. But Xbox needed to get into Asia. They made this game specifically to get into Asia, and you know what it did? It sold way more copies than expected, but not in Asia. It failed in Asia. It bombed in Asia. It did nothing in Asia. And the fact that this game almost sold better than expected doesn't mean anything when its point was not to sell in other places, but in Asia. The whole point of it was just to break into the Asian market. And it didn't. It failed. It doesn't matter if it sold good. It failed to do the thing that it was supposed to do. And that's why they shut this down. Because the sales in other places were kind of meaningless because it wasn't the point of this game. Ugh. Why is it so hard for some people to just get it through their goddamn thick skull?
Bethesda's going to go ahead and do this again. But the thing I just can't shake about the Shadow Drop, the true thing I cannot shake is how weird it is. As we'll talk about in a little bit with the Elder Scrolls IP, it has been since Elder Scrolls Online that I think Elder Scrolls fans have truly got something substantial. Now, you could make the argument like, okay, Maddie, we haven't gotten anything in a long while. And in terms of something new in the mainline series, it's been ages. It's been since Skyrim. So yeah, we don't want to wait once we first hear about it. That is good for the fan. And that is why I'm not complaining. But I think about it from the business angle, and there has to be something we don't know. I say that, I'm getting my conspiracy board out here again. I say that because when you look at what Bethesda has done, they've even pre-announced Elder Scrolls Castles. Elder Scrolls Castles. That got pre-announced.
Yeah, because probably the mobile game is the only thing that's making money for them.
They've done it with Blades. They've done it with Legends. These are the three spin-off Elder Scrolls. I'm sorry, Elder Scrolls fans. Y'all have had it rough. These are the three games that have come out from the Elder Scrolls IP since ESO, which I think was the last significant release in that franchise. That's absurd. And you're telling me the next thing, the actual next big thing Elder Scrolls fans get is a Shadow Drop. That's extremely exciting, but to me, from a business angle, it just says something like you wouldn't make a marketing campaign out of this, you wouldn't build this up, even for a month, or a couple of weeks, you wouldn't do that. What's going on here? And again, it goes back to my expectation, which is just going to be a very pretty version.
By the way, I don't understand the thing about a Shadow Drop, really, because when we're talking about a Shadow Drop, the concept, I think, as most of us understand it, at least this is how I understand it, is something that just gets dropped out of the blue on the market, and then it is you buy it if you want to. There's no campaign, there's no premeditated anything, there's no person tweeting on minimum age from the Bethesda Twitter account about you need to buy this crap or it's coming out. It just gets put on the market and that's it. That's it. I understand that as a Shadow Drop because if you call a Shadow Drop the game being announced at the place where you're supposed to look for game announcements, aka the Xbox Expo or whatever the hell it's called, then that's not a Shadow Drop. That's marketing. They're doing marketing. I'm so confused. I'm so confused.
Of Oblivion, have your expectations in check. I think there is
all of this is nonsensical.
Place for that in the market, especially with Sky Oblivion existing. You have a pretty version of the thing you remember when you were younger, and then you have like the full-on overhaul that we always dreamed of from the fans. Still, it drives me insane because Bethesda has the experience of a game that just shadow dropped, and eventually, while it wasn't just, I think, solely Hi-Fi Rush, but like consecutive underperformances from Tango, it did result in the almost closure of Tango until Krafton got their hands on them. So there's a risk there, and my very skeptical, pessimistic look at it is like they might be looking at Sky Oblivion going, this is the only way we generate hype. Okay, so with that rant off my chest now, the question is, again, if we're working with Shadow Drop type energy here, what is the event it Shadow Drops with? Does it just drop on like a random Wednesday? Like, hey, it's out. Here you go. I don't feel like that makes sense again. Like, there's got to be some level of like gathering people so a lot of folks can see it at once. So when it
Yeah. So, by the way, this is different from like movies and Netflix shows. The reason there are Netflix shows that do not get any marketing or anything like that, and it is like a shadow drop, they just drop magically, is because Netflix doesn't want the bad press associated with another horrible Netflix release that literally no one cares about, that cost like 500 million to make, and now is being watched by one desperate, lonely housewife that's probably dead and the cat accidentally stepped on the remote. They don't want that sort of press. And you could kind of argue that Bethesda doesn't want that sort of press, that no one plays Sky Oblivion remake. Not what the fuck is Sky Oblivion anyway? Oh right, Oblivion made in Skyrim. I forgot about that. But yeah, it's like no one knows what are the numbers that Oblivion remake is supposed to reach. Like if it gets 50k players, I'm gonna say, well, that's probably good. If it gets 5k players, I'm gonna say, well, it's not bad, I guess. And that's it. Like no one's gonna really rip on Oblivion remake not having a billion players. So that's so strange.
happens, if it's going to be word of mouth marketing, it just spreads like wildfire. At least that's what my thought would be as someone with zero marketing experience, might I add. But hey, I'm a fan of good marketing, so what can I say? So now we look at Elder Scrolls Online, because the Elder Scrolls Online Direct just happened. And a lot of people were saying, this is going to be where the Oblivion remake is announced. And to that I say, why did anyone ever have that idea? I'm not trying to be mean, of course. That's not what I'm about. But like, why would that ever be someone's idea? Because the way that Bethesda's single player games versus their online games have thrived is the online games have thrived in an environment where you have not got exactly what you wanted, and this was the next best option. Now, I do think ESO is amazing. Would I play Skyrim over ESO though? Every single day of the week. But ESO is still fantastic. Y'all gotta stop slandering ESO. But Fallout 76 thrived in a similar pocket. There's been nothing except a Fallout
76 is still trash. Shut up.
TV show since 76 dropped. When it comes to Elder Scrolls Online, there's been nothing except the 3 games I mentioned before, which were nothing like what you were looking for in the Elder Scrolls franchise.
Elder Scrolls Online still has 70k active minimum players, which is actually really good considering everything.
So
no, don't get me wrong, it is good, but the game is still dead because it's never gonna even come close to entering the cultural zeitgeist. But at least it's doing pretty good. It's doing way better than Fallout 70 slop.
ESO for the last 11 years has been the go-to option when you just want something new in Elder Scrolls. And that's the way 76 has thrived, ESO has thrived. So for people that think that ZeniMax Online Studios is going to step out and be like, here's our new plans for Elder Scrolls Online moving into the future. By the way, here's the thing you've really been waiting for. That just steals their own thunder. They don't want that.
Another non-binary companion and another god-pronounced gay, canonically. That's what we're waiting for.
They want you to go and engage with ESO, and no doubt they can kind of feed off that energy from Oblivion Remake. That's how these online games, I think, can really thrive in the Bethesda ecosystem, but they're not going to, like, shoot themselves, like, load the gun right in front of you and shoot themselves in the foot 4 times over and be like, yeah, that's right, go get your Oblivion Remake now. Like, no one will go play Elder Scrolls Online for the most part unless you're deeply engaged in that ecosystem. They're trying to pull in new players, but they're doing something pretty cool, which is called Seasons of the Worm Cult, and it's a sequel to the base game story from when it first came out in 2014, which just gives me a lot of nostalgia. I remember covering the hell out of this game. But ZeniMax Online Studios, a lot of people thought that we might get the Oblivion remake there because
that is not actually the big thing. The big thing is the fact that now your class is going to be able to use skills from any other class. Which, by the way, people who play Elder Scrolls Online told me about a couple of things in the comments. And one of the fun things is that every build is going to look the same, because in Elder Scrolls Online, there is this pay-to-play class that has, without question, the strongest ability in the game. I don't remember what it's called or what it even does. But every single person in the game is going to tell you that, yes, this is objectively, in all situations, for all classes, in all circumstances, the best button to always press. So the reality is, every single build in Elder Scrolls Online with the new things, you can have additionally two different trees from two different classes, is gonna always have that one class because that ability is just that overpowered and always a must-have if you can have it. So there's problems there, obviously.
They're in this, a lot of folks are claiming it a wind down state for Elder Scrolls Online, but I think people dramatically underestimate, number one, how popular Elder Scrolls Online is, number two, how big ZeniMax Online Studios is, and number three, how much money they do actually make. For example, we just learned Elder Scrolls Online tops 26 million players. That's a million player jump since October of just last year. And also 18 million players was one of the last marked points in March of 2021. So we're talking millions and millions of people still.
That's not that good. That is because we don't really know what that means. We don't listen. If you have 90 million active players in your current, actually, let's look at it. We can look at it. So ESO Steam DB. When did Maddie said that this was a thing? Okay, so March 2021. Okay. 2021. That's 3 years ago. No, that's gonna have to be ago. Okay. Let me switch the screen so you can see. So let's find March 2021. There we go. March 2021. 36K players. Okay? Average, it seems like this is pretty much, that month average that many players. So you're telling me that's 18 million active players? And now that we have roughly around 16, 17, 20. So what? We still have 10 million active players daily playing this game? Is that what you want to tell me? That's absolutely bullshit. That is absolutely 100% bullshit because I don't remember exactly what the World of Warcraft numbers are, but their numbers are not even comparable. Okay? World of Warcraft has something like 100 million active play. I don't remember. I'm gonna botch up these statistics because I don't remember. This has never been meaningful in any conversation up to this point. So I don't really remember the statistic that well. But it was ridiculous. It was something like, yeah, to get like 50K concurrent players on average daily, we need to have like 100 million active accounts. Yeah. It was numbers in that insane of a range, if I remember correctly. So this having 30 million, having 30K players with only 19, with only this many, with only 10 million players or something like that is insanity. It's just not real. There's something going on there. Either it's bots. And by the way, no one ever told me about the botting situation in ESO Online, because I think it's probably pretty big. I would assume that a lot of people playing are bots, actually.
So we're talking millions and millions of people still hopping in, checking this thing out. As of 4 years ago, this was actually picked up online. If you check out the Bethesda job listings, you'll see. But ZeniMax Online Studios opened an unannounced Montreal studio. They've been pouring tons of resources into this team. If you look at the amount of ZeniMax Online Studios available, it's crazy. It's more than really any other Bethesda property. And they've also, according to this LinkedIn post that Juice had picked up, an associate narrative director has been working on an unannounced AAA game, at least partially speaking, since as early as 2018. This is known as Project Kestrel, according to the FTC leak. It's oftentimes been linked to ZeniMax Online Studios, and it's kind of the blind squirrel finds a nut moment for me, because I've been predicting for
Okay, let's stop here, Maddie. This is insane. This is stupid. Like, this is not he's just yapping about the subject. We don't actually have any new information. Another Oblivion Remake leak is not happening. And this is clickbait. This is worse than me, by the way. Anyway, that was Mr. Maddie Plays. 10 out of 10. Bye.